but you got to give it your all for this one last game under the arches, because honestly, this is bigger than football now.
Welcome to the Euro Social with myself, Oladipo, broadcaster Craig Mitch, and we've got Daniele Fisichella with us as well, Italian football expert. All right, guys, we're here. I don't know how we've got here, but we are here. It's England versus Italy this Sunday, Euro 2020. It's a final that a lot of people didn't expect, but a lot of people wanted as well. Craig, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah.
This is it now, isn't it? I mean, that Denmark game was something else, but Italy's it's another level. We're going to need to see England go to another level. I think they can. What do you think?
I mean, look, the momentum's behind England, I'd say. You know, obviously both teams went to extra time, but Italy had to do a penalty shootout. I wanted to avoid extra time because obviously fatigue plays a massive part in this tournament with the games coming so thick and fast. But I do feel like England have the momentum. I feel like the energy from the nation, like I was at the game at Wembley, the semi-final, and you could just feel it, that there's something different right now. That's just kind of, I don't know if people believe in these sorts of things, but I do. You know, there's things like divine intervention and energy that can carry you through. And I just think with it being in London, in Wembley, in England, I do feel like this is the opportunity. I think the players know that. Gareth Southgate knows that.
Daniele, what Roberto Mancini's done to this side since he took over is incredible, right? This is a team that didn't qualify for the 2018 World Cup finals, and they've gone on this unbelievable unbeaten run. Roberto Mancini said it doesn't matter about this run. He needs one more game. This is the game now, the Euro 2020 final. Who are your key men in this final?
I think it's a very great collective, as you said. I mean, Mancini has put a group together that he believes in. I think, having looked at the Spain game where we suffered, we were under the cosh because they are great passers of the ball. They passed the way around us. They pressed us very high and we couldn't beat the press. We didn't have a plan B. And the key men are Verratti and Jorginho. I think in this European Championship, I struggle to find a better center pairing than Verratti and Jorginho. Everyone will want to have at least one of the two. And they have to dominate the possession. They have to have the ball more. And I think perhaps they will have the life a little bit easier this time than against the Spanish team, because I think England doesn't press as intensively or as high as Spain does. And hopefully these two can dictate the game. You see many times they just exchange little passes, little triangles, then Immobile drops in, so they create that overload in the central of the pitch. And then we got people who can finish as well. Chiesa is in great form. Insigne is very dangerous when he comes in with his right foot. So we got the firepower to hurt England, I think.
Craig, I can't lie. When he says it like that, my heart starts to get a bit.
I know.
Heart beats a bit more. When he says about the midfield battle as well, that's one thing, right? I mean, everyone before the tournament was a bit nervous about Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. Everyone was like, okay, look, they haven't played European football, not that experienced, not that many caps. They've done well though. But in Verratti and Jorginho, they are playing against two experienced midfielders.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking top of the top midfielders. I've been a fan of Marco Verratti for a while now. Jorginho, he's really, really just evolved at Chelsea into a whole different, like you can just see how important he is. And the fact they're doing it for their nation now just screams and shows their quality. I just think for us, it's going to be difficult. Rice and Phillips, two great players. I think they've really risen their stock throughout this tournament. Maybe a lot of people looked at them and thought, Rice playing for West Ham, Phillips playing for Leeds, there's not enough European football or big games under their belt, but you wouldn't think it the way they performed in this tournament. I just think the key thing for me is if where he decides to go in terms of formation, like does Gareth Southgate do a 3 at the back, or does he do the 4 at the back? If he does the 3 at the back, I would understand it, but I just feel like it'll be showing Italy a lot of respect. And they deserve
too much respect.
Yeah, they do. Every opponent deserves respect, but I just think you need to be very careful about how much respect you're giving the opposition. This is a final. This is a one-off game, and I believe we got to go for it.
It's weird, Daniele. The one key point for England, or the one person that could be changed, or one personnel that could be changed, is the right side of the front three. Everything else seems to be a rock solid, and we question whether or not it's going to be Jadon Sancho, Saka, or Foden. The one player that I think can be got at in this Italian team now is Emerson. Spinazzola was doing so well before the tournament. Obviously, he's out, but Emerson's the one where we think, okay, we can get some success because obviously he hasn't played that much football for Chelsea. Could they change Emerson and bring someone else? Or do you think Mancini's going to stick with Emerson?
I think he's going to stick with Emerson for two reasons. First of all, it's true, Emerson hasn't played a lot of football at Chelsea, so he's definitely not the one that we used to see at Roma. But it is a player that when he's been called upon, he's always ready. Even when he plays for Chelsea, when he plays like League Cup, FA Cup, he always look ready. And for Mancini, the second reason is that he was the starter up until 3 or 4 months ago. Then Spinazzola had a great end of the season. He provides more of an attacking threat, and obviously Spinazzola was in the team. The problem is that I think actually Emerson against Spain had an okay game. Even once he managed to hit the post, break those lines. He's a different kind of player because he doesn't play so high up the pitch. With Spinazzola, we had the great advantage of having basically an extra winger. So he was playing so high, and then that allowed Insigne to come on his right-hand side, and that's how he scored the goal against Belgium, with a great curling shot. So I think he's going to stick with Spinazzola, with Emerson. And obviously, Saka is a threat because I think Saka is very direct. He goes to the byline, he takes you on, he's quick. So I think it's gonna be a good battle. But we're gonna stick with the same formation, 4-3, the one we know. And obviously changes on the bench. We got quality people who can come in, but you guys have got a lot of firepower. I mean, before I was speaking about our players, but there is a lot of respect from us as well for your players, especially up front. I think you got a very exciting one that is Grealish. I love Grealish. Grealish is, I will play him every time, but I love Simeone. And obviously, you got a better centre forward that we have, at least in numbers. You got Harry Kane, who scored more goals for your national team than what Immobile has done. So we need to be mindful as well of what England can do, because you can do a lot.
I love that, Craig. I love hearing another team say how much firepower we've got. I don't feel like sometimes we, as English, we don't give ourselves respect for what we've got, right? Look at what we've got coming off the bench, and potentially Grealish coming off the bench, Sancho coming off the bench, Foden coming off the bench, Rashford coming off the bench. We've got ballers coming off the bench. Going back to that right side of the front three, who would you start, Craig?
It's so difficult because I said I wouldn't have started Saka admittedly before the game, and in the semi-final I wouldn't have started Saka, and now I'm looking at it going, all right, you know what, he performed very well against Denmark. He was direct, he played a role in the first goal, obviously the own goal, he drove, put the ball in the box. I had all my Arsenal friends reminding me of his qualities. I'm like, you don't need to remind me, I know Saka's a top talent. But I just feel like I was a bit surprised because he missed the game before, and I thought, maybe he would stick with Sancho, who had a very good game in the quarters. But I don't know. Something about me is telling me to play Sancho in this game. I don't know why. I just feel like you need that. You need that creativity. Saka provided an assist, but Sancho does this week in, week out in the Bundesliga. I just think you need someone that's a bit more. I think they'd be expecting Saka as well. I think that the Italians will be expecting Saka to start the game. They'll be looking at what Southgate's been doing and thinking, all right. And I think if you just threw Sancho in there like he did in the quarters, it'll be a bit of a wild card. Yeah, it'll be a bit of a wild card. And then, the Emerson and would have to really have a think about that. And he hasn't come up against Sancho much. Emerson plays in the Premier League. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the games and see if he's come up against Saka in the Premier League at all this season. But he hasn't come up against Sancho. So that's a whole nother thing to think about. And we know what Sancho's capable of with his feet. So for me personally, on that right-hand side, knowing that Emerson hasn't had a lot of game time, I'd go with Sancho, to be honest, and throw a wild card in there.
Daniele, you mentioned at the top that you've got probably the best centre midfield partnership. Some would say, although Stones and Maguire have done really well, that you've got the best centre-back partnership as well. Definitely in terms of experience in Chiellini and Bonucci, 36 and 34, over 100 caps each, which is incredible. And I think when I watch them, I feel like they're the master of the dark arts, the little fouls that you don't see, that, they'll step on your toes. We saw what Chiellini did when he picked up Alba before the penalty shootout. They play psychological games with you as well. How key are Bonucci and Chiellini?
Massive. They're massively important. And you're right to mention the way they manage the game. You know, you were seeing Chiellini before and during the game grinning, smiling, like, I am enjoying, I'm in it. It looks like, you know, those boxers that you punch them and they say, come again, you know, come again. I want one more. But after all, I think sometimes I think like defensive duties and defensive displays are not very appreciated. You know, we all talk about how important it is to play well, how to possibly dominate possession, but there is a lot into defensive organization, and even being under the cosh, as we were against Spain, but resisting. That's a credit. I don't think it's a negative thing after all. And these two guys represent that spirit. And also, I think it's very important that they motivate everyone around it. You know, they play with young Di Lorenzo on the right-hand side. Again, not massively experienced, but you can see he's motivated, he's pushed forward by them. They celebrate a clearance as if they score a goal. I remember Jose Mourinho said they could teach defense at Oxford. And it's true, because it goes... Yeah. It's not just about defending, it's also about organizing, rallying the troops as well, motivating the goalkeeper. Donnarumma is a young keeper, but he looks like, I mean, he played like almost 300 games for Milan since he was 16, but he looks like a proper mature keeper. The only caveat with Chiellini, and this is something that we might have to be careful, is that in the last 2 seasons, he only played 29 games for Juventus, not many, because he had injuries. I'm not sure he has played 3 games in a row in a week or so for so long. So there is a question that he could be tired. And if you stretch our back line, especially because, you know, you got people running in behind, Kane dropping. Sometimes we saw also against Spain, the two center backs, they didn't know who had to go to Morata, who had to go to Pau Torres. They left the gap and Morata scored. So, you know, they got their own weaker sides as well that you hopefully won't be able to exploit. But I'm sure Southgate and the teams know what the weakest side. Plus, there is the fitness question about Chiellini.
Craig, let's talk about key man. I think the key man, I think we've seen it so far. For me, player of the tournament has been Raheem Sterling, the boy from Brent, right? I mean, his work ethic is crazy. You're watching the runs he's doing in extra time. When you think he's tired, he's stretching the defense. He's scoring goals, he's assisting as well. And what I like about Sterling is that even when he makes a mistake, right, a shot over the bar, which I think should be comfortable for him, he goes again. Nothing seems to deter him. Is he the key man, or is it Harry Kane now who's starting to score goals?
I think it's a bit of both. I think, you know, when you turn up to these finals, even Harry Kane, you know, I'm Harry Kane's biggest fan. I'm a Spurs fan, everyone knows. But, you know, he's been in Champions League finals, he's been in League Cup finals and hasn't scored. And people start to take note of these little things, you know, these big games. And if you want to really announce yourself, obviously it's all good getting golden boots. It's all good, you know, being a talisman for your country and your club. But to go to the next level now, you need to start scoring in these finals. You know, people could say what they want about Mbappe missing that penalty. He scored at a World Cup final at 19 and won the trophy. And these are the things that go down in history and you need to do. Harry Kane will be very aware of that. You know, if he can score in this game and he's on 4 goals equal and get the golden boot and lift this trophy, we're talking about Ballon d'Or now for Harry Kane, because he got golden boot in the Premier League and top assister. So you can't have a top assister, golden boot in Premier League, golden boot in the Euros, and win the Euros and not potentially win the Ballon d'Or. He needs to be thinking that. Then we look at Sterling. I've already sang praises about Sterling for years now. And I know, you know, people on social media try giving me a hard ride about it because I said that Sterling, for me, one thing that makes him so massive in my eyes is the fact that he had to deal with all that controversy off the pitch. Yeah. You know, being the papers getting on his back, people getting on his back, being painted in a particular way, and to still kind of level up and get to where he is now, like kind of just build and get better as a player, win things with Man City. Pep Guardiola, you know, up until this season, putting so much faith in him. And then off the back of having the season he had with Man City, now coming into the England side and then finding another gear again and keeping his place in the team, to me shows his mentality. People need to understand that when you're trying to be an elite athlete at the highest level, your mentality is everything. There's one thing to have the ability, it's one thing to have the talent, you know, it's one thing to even have, you know, maybe a great team around you, but I think it's all about the mentality. And it's like how Daniele said, like Bonucci and Chiellini, these are players that have elite mentality. These are players that think elite. Like there's nothing that kind of wavers that. And I think we're starting to really, really see that with Sterling now. When he crosses that white line, great players, like even this man here, Michael Jordan, they have this ability to just block everything out that's going on around them in their personal life, anything in the world. And they're ever present. They focus on what's happening right here on the pitch or on the court or wherever it happens to be in their field. And I think Sterling's hitting that gear now. Like once he crosses that white line, he's tapping into a whole different mentality. He's just driven, wanting to, and we spoke about it in the last Euro Social when he gave the ball away, you know, and against Germany, and he was kind of in despair. You see what it means to certain players. And I think, I know he's going to show up. You know, I can't say he's going to get a goal. I don't know about that. But one thing I know is he's going to be a handful all night for Lorenzo, Bonucci, these players. He's going to be a handful. So we just need all of these players now, one final push. And then you get to celebrate, booze it up, go Mykonos, wherever you want to go, LA, you know, jump on a plane. But you got to give it your all for this one last game under the arches. Because honestly, this is bigger than football now. Like, we've gone beyond football. We're seeing people jump on top of double-decker buses in Piccadilly Circus. We're seeing people just, you know, not that I condone any of this behavior, but we're seeing people go absolutely mad. And we're talking about people that don't even watch football now. Like, this is where young kids that never really got into football, you know, a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old that's more concerned with maybe Call of Duty or something, this is where you could make them football fans. This is where they fall in love with the game. I give you a comparison. In my lifetime, I've been lucky. This is the 5th major final I witnessed. And, you know, the first one was in 1994, and I was old enough to remember. But if I go back to my dad, that would be like the 7th final he witnessed. For you, it's the first one. You've never seen something like, and you're right, this is a defining moment for you, also for me, who've been living in this country for a long time. This is the summer where, as you said, the kids stay up late, they watch the football until late, you go out with your flag and everything. So it's a very defining moment, and I'm glad that I can live it here. Okay, obviously Italy's in the final, but I can see what other people are experiencing. It's completely different. I understand the emotion.
Look, we've spoken about the players. I think we can all agree that it's almost 50-50, right? It's close. Defense is very split between the two of them. Both have good goalkeepers. Maybe Italy win the midfield, and I think we have the better forward line. Let's quickly talk about, and we'll end on this one, let's talk about the management teams. Daniele, I want to talk about Mancini first, and not just about Mancini, but about Vialli, Lombardo, De Rossi, all the players, former players of Mancini, former friends that he's brought together. How important is that setup?
It's really important because and the atmosphere, it's relaxed, but obviously highly professional, highly demanding to the players. But at the same time, they manage to create this climate of friendship, of mutual trust, mutual respect. And obviously, that's providing really important. I give you an example. In the game against Wales, where we were already qualified, Mancini made 9 changes. And in the end, with 2 minutes left, he brought on the second keeper, Sirigu, for Donnarumma. Now, some people say, well, that's stupid. Why do you do it? It's massively important to show that everyone is part of the group, that we are all in this together. Everyone deserves at least to play a minute. Okay, the third keeper hasn't played a minute, but everyone has. And I think Mancini also reflects on his own experience. In Italy 1990, he was in the squad in the World Cup. He didn't get into the pitch. And he was a very talented team, but so was very talented Mancini. And he always had this relationship with the national team of a little bit of conflict. I don't think he had less than 40 caps for Italy, 5 or 6 goals, so not a great career. And we're talking one of the best number 10 we had. So I think he wanted to restore this sense of pride, this sense of togetherness in the group. And this is how we are going, we're pushing forward. I think for Mancini, this final is the stepping stone of what could come. He still got 4 years left on his contract, so he could take us to the next European Championship and obviously the World Cup, and more things to come. So yes, it's definitely his team. You can see how he built it with his friends, with his former players, and with a lot of team spirit.
Yeah, very strong Italian setup. Craig, we've got a setup as well, a very strong one, right? Steve Holland's on it, Graham Jones, who's done so well at Newcastle, Chris Powell, you know very well, obviously his time at Tottenham. It's a strong setup as well with Gareth. A lot of those players, especially Steve Holland has been with him since the under-21. So 2013, he's been with Gareth Southgate. Strong setup there as well.
100%. You know, I always sing the praises of Steve Holland because obviously when I was involved in the England camp for the World Cup in 2018, I really saw firsthand how, you know, meticulous he is, how intricate he is with all of his planning, you know, the setup, how serious he is. You know, Chris Powell's been a great addition to it as well. Southgate, fantastic with man management. We've seen that throughout the tournament as well, kind of like what Daniele said about giving people minutes, you know, making sure people are involved, trying to get them on the pitch. You know, even Dominic Calvert-Lewin got a few minutes the other day. You know, I know he's been left out of a few of the squads, but, you know, I think that's very important that you kind of make everyone feel included, make sure everyone feels like when that trophy gets lifted, if it gets lifted, when everyone's got that medal, if they get that medal, that they feel like they've earned a bit of it themselves and they wasn't just a passenger sitting by. And I just feel like Steve Holland's experience of being at Chelsea for all those years, you know, he was at Chelsea for a number of years in the early 2010s when they were winning everything. Exactly. And he was assistant manager to a number of different managers, but they kept winning things. He was the only common denominator, really and truly. So I think he knows what it takes to get over the line. There's a lot of winners in this side now as well. A lot of players that have silverware. A lot of players in this. There's players that just won the Champions League, like Mason Mount. You know, so I think Southgate, Steve Holland, they'll know what to do. I think they've proven it throughout this tournament. Anyone that doubted, you know, their plan and what they were doing before, whether they're playing 5 at the back, whether they were playing 2 holding midfielders, whether they have had 7 defensive-minded midfielders on the pitch at once, no one can say anything anymore. You know, even if England go out there and lose this, you know, touch wood, hopefully they don't. I don't think anyone could really have a complaint with Gareth Southgate and Steve Holland and what they put in, because really and truly, when Gareth Southgate got this job all those years back, there was no expectation, not only for him, but for England in general. You know, we was at rock bottom after Euro 2016. 2018 built our confidence up, you know, started winning games again, you know, got to semi-final there, got to semi-final of the UEFA Nations League, got to the semi-final of the Euros, and now we've gone one step further. We're in a final. So no matter what happens, I think Gareth Southgate deserves his praise. Steve Holland deserves his praise. The whole coaching setup deserves their praise. And, you know, hopefully they can just take it over the line now. But whatever decisions they make, I'm fully behind it. And I think the country needs to be. I don't want to see any of this before the game. Oh, why has he done this? Why has he chose this? He conceded 1 goal between the start of the tournament and the final, and it wasn't even from open play. It was from a set piece. And it was a fantastic set piece. There was nothing really, you know, people say Pickford, you know, being a bit over the top. But the reality is we haven't conceded from open play. So just believe in the managerial setup, believe in the players, and just get behind them no matter what the selection.
All right, guys, let's wrap up on this one. Let's get predictions. Let's go. Predictions. Daniele, I'm going to start with you. Does this trophy go back to the Azzurri? Who wins?
No, I'm not gonna be able to tell you. Look, I had a look at this. I'm gonna tell you that it's gonna be a tight game. The last 3 of the last 4 Euro finals ended 1-0. And I think 8 of the last 9, ended with 2 goals or less in 90 minutes, and 3 went to extra time. So I think we might be in for a long night.
I'm going to say 2-1 after extra time, just literally what happened with Denmark. I think it will be tight. It will go 1-1 to extra time. And I just think it's about whose legs don't go. And like you said, Chiellini hasn't played a lot of minutes. But these players are older as well. Like, I just think the legs might go once it gets extra time.
Anderson is not spring chicken.
Yeah, but he'll come on. He'll come on. I don't think he's starting. He'll come on and shore it up. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, it's coming home.
Guys, it's been a good one. It's been an interesting one. Daniele Fisichella, thank you very much. Craig Mitch, broadcaster, thank you very much. This is the Euro 2020 final. It's happening, guys. Sunday, Italy versus England. Look, leave your comments below on this one. Leave your predictions below as well. Thank you for joining us once again. My name's Oladipo. Hit that subscribe button as well, people. Big one. Finals coming.